But we did get news from Mississippi State from a scheduling standpoint, and that is that their home-and-home series with Texas Tech, which was on the docket for 2028-2029, has been canceled. And it is a product of the scheduling changing within the SEC. Now, not because they don't want to play a power conference game and with a 9-game schedule. They don't have a choice. You have to play a power conference opponent in the going forward. That's why State canceled the Washington State series, because Washington State moving forward is no longer a power conference program. So that was supposed to be, I think it was 2030, 2031. The series with Wazoo was canceled because that no longer suffices as a power conference opponent in the non-conference slate. With Texas Tech, it's a scheduling thing. The way it was set up is State was supposed to play home versus Texas Tech in 2028 and then at Texas Tech in 2029. The reason this matters for State is because with the new 9-game SEC schedule, you were alternating years between having 4 or 5 SEC home games. And for State, even numbered years, they have 5 SEC home games. Odd number years, they have 4 SEC home games. Therefore, if State was having to go on the road for Texas Tech in 2029, an odd number year, they would end up having 6 road games, which is unheard of in college football. You still see programs that do that. You see high-level programs that will have the years where it's only 6 home games, 6 away. State last did it back in 2016. That was a year that State, obviously, it was just an 8-game conference schedule, but they played at UMass and at BYU that year, which was brilliant scheduling on State's part, but that's the way it shook out that year. However, generally speaking, you try to get yourself 7 home games. Obviously, you get at least 4 conference games at home, and then you have your other non-conference games. You kind of want to game those out to get you to 7 home games. Obviously, the idea is to give you as many winnable opportunities at home to try to get reach bowl eligibility. I don't think State's ever done the 8 home games. I know we've seen like LSU has done that a lot in the past. They'll play 8 home games because they'll play every single non-conference game at home. I mean, the reason you've seen other teams do it is because a lot of these other teams do not do the road games against G5s in the way Mississippi State frequently has. That's been a thing. State has now pretty much every other year going back to who knows. God, it's been a long time. I don't know the last time State did not have a home-and-home series with a G5 team. It not counting the one-off games. You know, the likes of, Louisiana Lafayette, La Tech, Southern Miss, Memphis, Troy, they seem to frequently do the home-and-home, or they do the 2-for-1. But they play those road games at the G5s. It's all a money-saving tactic that the previous administration was big on. And the argument is that, you're going and putting yourself out in these recruiting areas that you go into, recruiting in South Mississippi, recruiting in Louisiana, recruiting in South Alabama, all those things. And it's an opportunity for Bulldogs living in these other areas to get a game close to home. Like it's nice to have a game close to Starkville, or that people who are not close to Starkville, they get a game close to home. And sure, like, hey, 2015, Mississippi State opened the season at Southern Miss. I was in attendance because it was an hour away. It was easy to go. I didn't go to the Southern game this past year. I was not about look, we still didn't know what that team was going to be, and the team ended up not being great, but they were good enough to handle business in those games. I was in no way, shape, or form going to be subjecting myself to the possibility of having to be in Hattiesburg for a loss to Southern Miss had that happened. Would not have worked for me at all. Plus, I mean, with the post-game live show, the writing stuff, it didn't make a whole lot of sense regardless. But yeah, I was not about to go make that trip. But I get it. It's nice for people to have that opportunity if you have a game closer to you, because you have a lot of fans in South Mississippi and in Louisiana and in Alabama and up in the Memphis area. Sure, having the game in your backyard's ideal. The reality is Mississippi State was doing this to save money so that they would not have to pay a big contract to these G5 teams to, like, hey, come take a loss. It was all a money-saving venture for Mississippi State. That is an old way of thinking. That is a line of thinking that has to go by the wayside moving forward in the 9-game schedule. Mississippi State cannot play road games against G5 teams moving forward. That has to stop. And in the 2028-2029 seasons, State has a home-and-home scheduled with Memphis. They are at Memphis in 2028, home against Memphis in 2029. That's got to change. And that's part of why they had the Texas Tech series, because it was you would alternate between the two. Now with the 9-game schedule, because of the impact to the home-road splits within the ACC, you have to get rid of those games. And what you have to game it is, for Mississippi State's sake, when it is a odd number year and you are playing 5 SEC road games, you've got to have your power conference team at home. Go on the road for the power conference in the even years, stay at home in the power conference in the odd years. That's how State has got to do this moving forward, because you've got to give yourself 7 home games. And I'm kind of already getting into, my full thoughts on this. And I guess I'll pause there briefly and come back around to it. In terms of losing the game against Texas Tech, it sucks a little bit, right? Because those are fun opportunities. Those are fun games to go play. I think there were people who were excited to go to Washington State. Pullman's a town that obviously has taken a lot of shots over the years, but I think it's an interesting trip going up to a part of the country a lot of fans have probably never been to. And it's a fun, unique program. Texas Tech, Lubbock, kind of the same way. It was very interesting, Lubbock, Pullman, and Starkville. Obviously, Mike Leach's stomping grounds, but also college towns that are routinely dunked on by outsiders, and people give them crap for, it's not that great of a place to go visit. But, I think it would have been a fun trip. Those are all programs that are pretty evenly matched with Mississippi State. Now, Texas Tech has gotten a lot better, obviously, these past few years. And will that continue moving forward with the NIL machine that they have going in Lubbock? That is certainly possible. I guess you would look at it now like, crap, that'd be a really tough couple games. And I don't think Mississippi State is moving away from this series because they're worried of losing to Texas Tech. It's all about maximizing the number of home games that you're going to play. But historically speaking, like when the rule was first implemented, and that was back during Strickland's tenure, that you had to have a non-conference opponent that was of power conference caliber. Going with Kansas State, NC State, which that series wasn't finalized because of COVID, but you got the one game in. BYU was a part of it as well. Obviously, this was before their power conference program, but it still worked. Arizona State, Texas Tech, Washington State, Minnesota. Those are all the games that were put on the docket. State picked opponents that are comparable competitively, teams that you have a chance to play against. They did not go with the big marquee, we're going to go play Notre Dame. We're going to go play USC. We're going to go play Ohio State. They didn't go for that. Which, how much would those teams have wanted to play Mississippi State to begin with? I don't know. But they went with opponents where it's like, hey, we're meeting the requirement, but it's a game we can win. It should be a fun, competitive game. Interesting places to go play. Going to different cities, that's a fun travel opportunity for fans. I thought State did a really good job with how they went about that. It's more respectable than just, now you wouldn't say this anymore because they've gotten a lot better, but just, all right, who's going to play Kansas and Rutgers every single year, right? They did better than that. It is somewhat disappointing to see those games go away. However, if you get into my big picture view on what Mississippi State has to do as a program moving forward, State should always be looking to schedule for bowl eligibility. That's got to be priority number one. How do we make sure we are giving ourselves our best chance at getting 6 wins? Which has gotten tougher in a 9-game conference schedule. It was already tougher when you add in the fact now we have to play power conference opponents in the non-conference, which is staying. They're not moving away from that just because we're going to a 9-game schedule. There's going to be years where State's going to lose a non-conference game to one of those power conference teams, and it puts more pressure on you in SEC play. It gets tougher moving forward. It just does. But it's always got to be maximizing your potential to get to 6 wins. And this has been a big debate today because I know Ari Wasserman with the, I was about to say the Athletic, that was his former job with On3, talked about, there's been discussions, Ohio State and Alabama, are they going to cancel their series that they have coming up in the next few years? Because both of those programs are coming at it from the perspective of why would we play a game like this when it could potentially keep us out of the playoff? This year, the whole big argument was Texas. If Texas doesn't lose to Ohio State, Texas is in the playoff. And it's a stupid mentality because ultimately, in the case of Texas, hey man, just don't lose to Florida. That's why you were not a playoff team. But are Texas fans technically accurate when saying that if they had lost the games they did but beaten Texas State, they're in the playoff? There's a real possibility because they had good wins. They had good wins that a lot of these other teams didn't have. Now, I think they also had a lot of ugly showings that would have made you say, is that really a playoff team regardless? But they would have had a case to be in, whereas at 9-3, it wasn't happening for them. So, and it's disappointing because games like that are games that you want to watch as a college football fan. But speaking selfishly here, and this is where I can understand the perspective of some of these bigger brands that are going away from these games. You know what matters to me more than watching an intriguing game or an interesting matchup? Mississippi State winning football games. I remember I brought this up. I saw this a while ago. A few years back, Colorado, they had a non-conference slate of, I think at a given year, it was Air Force, TCU, and Minnesota all in the same year, I think was what they did. And the Pac-12 was playing 9 conference games. And this was Colorado pre-Deion, which currently they're still Colorado with Deion. It's the same Colorado that it was pre-Deion at this point, now that Schnur and Travis aren't there, but regardless. And I found myself asking, why would you want to set yourself up for failure? This is a program that's gone to a bowl game. At that time, they had been to 2 bowl games since 2007. Losing season after losing season after losing season. Including several years where they were 5-7 and were on the cusp and could have been gotten bowl eligible. And I just found myself why would you do this to yourselves? I get it. You're going on the road playing these intriguing matchups. It's all fun. Would your fans not be more interested if you were finding ways to win, between 6 and 8 games because you scheduled right? I made sure I didn't say the thing, which 8 was being a bit generous, but I didn't want to say the thing. Your fan base would be more invested if you were simply winning football games. Because I go back and I compared it to Dan Mullen at Mississippi State. There was a stretch of scheduling in the 2000s where Mississippi State was kind of making it tough on themselves. I guess it kind of started in the late 90s, but then throughout the 2000s. But Sylvester Croom, and this is not me trying to suggest he was set up for failure or anything, but there were years where Croom's teams were playing some tough games in the non-conference. And that continued up into the beginning of Mullen's tenure because a lot of people talk about 2009 Mississippi State, they won 3 conference games, but they went 5-7 because they had to play a top 20 Georgia Tech team and then a Houston team that had Case Keenum. And they lost those 2 games. Those are 2 good teams, 2 tough opponents in the non-conference slate. If you had scheduled weaker, they go to a bowl game easily. And obviously, as we talked about, Mullen continued – throughout Mullen's tenure, they played the road games against the G5 for the same reason I talked about. But what they did was they stopped playing the power conference game. Obviously, they had the 1 year in 2013, they played the kickoff game against Oklahoma State, which they lost. But 2014, the non-conference slate in 2014, Southern Miss, UAB, South Alabama, and then it was UT Martin. State's best team ever played horrible teams in the non-conference because they were setting themselves up to win football games. Mississippi State fans did not care. Mississippi State fans were still packing out the stadium. Why? Because Mississippi State was winning football games. And I know there's been this, attendance has been on decline. It's how do you get fans back in the stands? You can talk about exciting matchups all you want. You can say nobody wants to be sitting when an 11 a.m. kickoff and a team you're going to blow out when it's 100 degrees outside. I get all that, and there's a lot of accuracy to that. You're never going to get back to a point where you're selling out the stadium every single week. And this is not Mississippi State. This is nationwide. That's always going to be tough to get back in this era where it's so freaking expensive to go to games, and then every game's on TV. But if you want to get out to like consistently having big crowds for the games on your schedule that people want to come to, you have to have that. You need to have the win column be up. You want to have that number next to your game that you got by getting the win column up, which means win football games. And if you're Mississippi State, you want to maximize your opportunities at wins. And it starts with getting to bowl games. Going to bowl games is still an accomplishment. Being bowl eligible. I think State fans realize that now based on how the last 3 years have gone. Obviously, you got to go to a bowl game this year, but it's not the same. Having a team go into the postseason is a whole lot better than 5-7, 4-8. And people can say, well, what's the difference? 6-6 is a hell of a lot better. It is. It's more exciting. It's more fun. Set yourself up every year to try to get to 6 wins. Do not put games on the schedule where you are just asking yourself to lose. That starts with getting rid of the non-conference games. Getting rid of the non-conference road games against G5, or I guess now it's G6 teams. That Memphis series has to go. They've got Southern Miss home and home 2030, 2031. They've got Tulane home and home 2030, 2032. It's got to go away. You're not playing those games on the road. Either you find somebody else, or you have to find somebody else, because those teams are not going to play you back-to-back seasons both in Starkville. Play the home game or completely get out of the series. Find somebody who's willing to come to Starkville. I don't care. And I know everybody's going to be like, well, that's just coach that's being scared. Oh, you're worried of losing? Yeah, man. Because if you lose a game like that, season over. In this era, you lose a game like that, you are not rebounding. When it comes to going to a bowl game, for Mississippi State's sake, you cannot overcome losing to Southern Miss, losing to Memphis, losing to Tulane. You're not going to be able to do it. So, you have to just stick with, we need to schedule games we trust we can win. As the power conference games, you don't have a choice. You have to play them. Step number 1 is find teams you can be competitive with. And I'll be honest, if it means scheduling the very worst teams in the country, like go get Stanford, go get – who else sucks right now? No offense to my guy Oliver, Purdue. Go do that. But get those games. You have to set it up to where you are giving yourself 7 home games every single year. 7 home games a year. Give yourself as many opportunities as you can to be a bowl, to get those wins. Having that home eligibility. What am I saying? Home field advantage to increase your possibility for bowl eligibility. I don't think there's a way that you can ever give yourself 8 games a year consistently, because that would mean you're going between 6 and 8. If you're going to do a home and home, that's not going to happen. Give yourself 7 home games a year. Always make sure the way you schedule it. So, step number 1, you've got to get done with these road games against G5s. That's got to go away. Step 2, pick power conference teams that you can compete with. And step 3, assure that you were scheduling for 7 home games a year. State's got to do that. You control what you can control. Those are the non-negotiables for Mississippi State. Do not worry about we're trying to get a marquee matchup. Certainly not worry about saving money. A saving money mentality is what has kept Mississippi State athletics down for decades. And thank God they've got an athletic director in place now who understands, hey, spending is valuable and does good things for us. You've got to do that. So do not do any money-saving ventures when it comes to how you schedule. Try to create as many wins as you possible with how you schedule. That's got to be the approach for Mississippi State moving forward. Because the 9-game conference schedule makes life tougher. It is going to be more difficult to get to 6 wins moving forward. We talk about a good year for Mississippi State football, traditionally 8-4. That's going to be a lot tougher to pull off moving forward. It just is. So to do whatever you can to maximize your chances of getting to that, you control what you can control. So is it somewhat disappointing that you're not going to play these cool series? I think, especially like Washington State and Texas Tech, because of the Mike Leach connection, those games would have been a lot of fun. And I think there was so many similarities in the programs. And again, like how people talk about the towns they're in, what they've done historically, the types of schools. Wazoo is also an ag school. Texas Tech, I believe they're pretty much an ag school with a lot of what they do. I know they're the Texas A&M, I guess, is the ag school, but I mean Texas Tech, it's a lot of farming and meat science that they do. All of that stuff is really cool. Those would have been fun series, but ultimately you have to make sure you are giving yourself the best opportunity to get in wins moving forward. So that's going to be the approach State takes.